Hey everyone, Mark with Grounded Truths here. Just wanted to share with folks as we're coming out of the snow and hopefully getting into a good burn season here in the eastern US. Wanted to show you this tool. It's been in existence for a little while, a couple years, but available only to the southeastern US. As you can see, for Florida, Georgia, Southern Foresters were primary partners in this. It has now been opened up to the rest of us across the nation. And so what this is this is a tool that you will, and I'll show you how to use it here in a minute, but it's a tool that you come in, you can plot your burns where they are across the landscape. This would be great for prescribed burn associations, NGOs that own lands across an area, and you can put in different parameters for each burn. It will compare with the daily weather and let you know if your burn is coming into prescription or not. So as you log in, normally this is the page. You go to rxburnplanner.com. It'll show you this page. Here I'm already logged in, but normally over here in the corner it'll say sign up or log in. Already done that. So when you do so, it's going to take you to the burn map page, and it's going to bring you out here to a view of the country. First things first, find where you want to be. And I'm going to run a full demo here. I'll create a burn unit and we'll walk through how to do that. So the burn map is the default view. Come in and let's go look for Donovan here, and we will do a prescribed burn out here just outside of Donovan. So let's we'll go to here. We got our map tools, and we're going to go to draw. Now, easy peasy way, you just put a simple square burn unit down and drag and drop, and there's your square burn unit, right? And it'll tell you how many acres it is, etc. I'm kind of more of a by the details guy, so let's just take this whole area here, and all I did was click draw a complex polygon and came over here, single click to add a point, a vertex in GIS terms. And so we're going to come around over here. You know, I feel like Bob Ross right now, drawing a happy little polygon. But this is our, let's say this is our burn unit here, and we'll come up and around, and then when we're done, we're going to tie it in with 2 clicks. Boom, there's our polygon, okay? 118 acres, right? Happy with that, it looks good. You can grab the unit itself and do, and mess with that a little bit. You can also, scale it up and down. So you have opportunities and options to edit this. You can also just clear it, redraw it, but this is good enough for what we're doing. So we're going to call this practice. And let's say it's a dormant season burn, because that's mostly what we do here. Yep, Missouri and Ripley County. Yes, it's an active burn. If you click inactive, the system defaults that inactive burns are not shown anywhere. So you want to keep it active if you're going to use it any time in the near future. Your burn priority, normal, low, or high. Grass here is primarily going to be timber litter, right? Or fuel model is going to be timber litter. And we're going to ignite with backing fire. So we'll save that. And it's going to take us over to this next page. Tells me it created successfully. Good deal. It's going to give me an overview. There's an option up here in the top right corner. If you don't like it, if you wanted to, I've missed a point or something, you can go in and edit that. So let's see. Next, we're going to go to weather and smoke behavior. Now, this is and it'll tell you right here, this is based on a single point ignition. It is not accounting for the full 100 and something acres. It is a very simple, let's see, mostly we have southwesterly winds here. And in our burn season, a lot of our winds sometimes come out of the southwest. So the point is here that it's going to tell us that smoke sensitive, we have Donovan Municipal Airport. Then we're going to put some smoke on structures. So these are just things to think about, and you can actually zoom in and get in the layer list and look at what all is here that it's pinging off of and telling you, okay, so yep, The orange piece is the part that is more smoke impacted. The yellow piece is less smoke impacted. Keep in mind, this does not account for any kind of mixing height, doesn't account for vertical loft of smoke. So this is a very, very basic smoke model. This is not blue sky or high split. But we're going to put some smoke on 160 and some structures and homes right here. That's no bueno. So maybe we want to consider a different wind direction. If we adjust for west, well, we've gotten rid of the runway. The highway is no longer impacted. There you go. So when we go here, we're going to want to edit preferred weather. So again, we're in weather and smoke behavior. Scroll down, edit conditions. Now this is preferred. This is the key thing here. Preferred weather conditions, not your prescription. The way this system works, and I'll show you here as we get into it, but the way this system works is it will allow X number of factors to be outside of your preference. So if you put your prescription in here, right, a prescription is if any one item is outside of that allowable prescription. So it's your RH is set, the prescription says 30 and you're at 25, you're out of prescription. Doesn't matter if the winds, temperature, everything else could be perfect. If the RH says if the floor is 30 and you're at 25, you're out of prescription. If any single factor is too high or too low, whole thing's out. So this system doesn't work that way. This system will tell you that, hey, all of your items are good to go, or some of your items are good to go, or a vast majority of them are not good to go, so don't do it. So what we're going to do here, let's say fictionally that our temperature for the prescription is going to be 40 degrees to 80 degrees, right? But we're not going to put 40 to 80 here. We're going to put 45 to 75. This way we have, let's say 50 to 70. That would be an even better. Be 50 to 70, right? So we're leaving ourselves that little eyebrow of room. This is our Goldilocks zone. What is our ideal area, right? Well, let's say the floor for this prescription is 25%. Well, maybe we want to go 30% for our minimum relative humidity. And if the high end is, let's say, 50% or 55%, then maybe we want to go 45%. And again, wind speed, minimum. Typically, you don't have a minimum wind speed on a burn, but your maximum, and this is referring to your 20-foot winds, not your mid-flame winds. This is 20-foot winds, what you see in your weather forecast, 20 foot above the highest, there's treetops or the fields or whatever. It's 20 foot above that. So your max, let's say your max allowable is 14, so we're going to put 10, okay? Wind directions that are allowable, well, typically we get south, southwest, southeast, west, and we could say northwest. We could click in, fill in as many as we want. Typically, I avoid easterly winds. Here in most places in the United States, easterly winds precede at least a strong easterly wind precedes a cold front. Cold fronts are bad juju when you're trying to burn. Wind gusts, okay? So again, minimum 0, maximum, let's say 12. Okay. Now note that these are required factors, the little red asterisks next to them, so we don't have to fill in any precipitation. We do need to fill in transport wind speed, so we really don't want to burn at 0 transport winds, but so actually, you know what? I'm gonna correct myself. For the purposes of smoke, which is going to increasingly eat our collective lunches as we have those discussions around smoke and smoke impacts to health, etc., and the trade-offs of ecology, wildfire risk reduction, smoke is going to be more and more a topic of conversation in all this. So, for the purposes of smoke, not necessarily fire behavior, but for the purposes of smoke, let's go back up to our wind speed, and we'll say minimum 4 miles an hour. And realistically, that's going to put our transport wind speed at least 6 miles an hour. We could say max is 14. Transport wind speed is usually going to be faster, more often than not, than your 20-foot wind speed. And so the transport wind directions, we're going to go pretty much the same as with our 20-foot wind direction. Actually, let's nix the easterly component out of there completely. Dispersion index. So atmospheric dispersion index, there is actually a paper. I will go back here in a second and I will show you, but ADI is typically we could go 40 to 65, 70 is probably going to be on the good end right there. That's a good solid. If you get above 65, you're getting into atmospheric conditions that would perhaps enable or increase your spotting potential. So mixing height, typically, at least here in Missouri, standard minimum mixing height is 1,500 feet AGL. And then we could say up to 5,500 feet AGL. Really, there doesn't need to be a max, but yeah. So LVORI, that's an index that came out of Florida. It has to do with the impacts of visibility, smoke impacting visibility on highways. So for right now, that's good. We're going to save our conditions, and boom, right here it tells me where we're at in terms of how many conditions are lined up. Well, let's see. But here's the thing. It doesn't tell you whether it's too moist or too dry, like for your RH, or too high or too cold. So, but let's look at this really quick. The grid, so the temperature, you're too cold, you're out of it on the cold side, which isn't really a big deal most of the week. But the RH is too high. So it's 61%. Coming off of fresh moisture, 61% in timber litter is not going to do anything. Smolder, maybe creep around a little bit and just, put up a bunch of smoke if it even does anything at all. So your wind speeds here, saying this is marginal because 0 to 6, but here we're at 6 to 7, 1 to 6. And again, there's this piece of ocular and professional opinion that you got to look at the factors and say, well, if you're all in green, great. Absolutely. That's a full send. Let's go. Get the folks moving. Tipping torches day. But a lot of this, the red and the yellows, especially the yellows, you're going to have to really look and see like, well, it might not be in my preference, but is it truly out of prescription, or can I accept this little bit of wind here? That's up to you. And then also just looking at your burn plan. Transport wind speeds are all looking good. Directions are all looking good. Mixing heights. So yeah, the 6th here, we're not going to want to burn because we're just going to create a whole ton of smoke and smoke everyone out. So here's the big caveat. Go to the fire weather dashboard, pull the point forecast for where you're at. Go to fire weather dashboard. There's another video that I have out there on how to use that. I can link it in the description. But make sure and go to that, zoom in, click on exactly where you're going to burn and get the weather info most up to date for where you're going to burn, and make your tactical and strategic decisions off of that forecast, and or grab the Kestrel, preferably grab the Kestrel as you go out to the unit, take weather, and base everything on that on-site weather observation. So there's my soapbox on that particular subject. But again, we can go back, we can edit conditions, we can look, we could say, well, maybe temperature isn't that big of a deal. We can lower that to 45 and raise that to 75. We can make the wind speed 2 to 3. We can do what we need to do if we're getting too many situations where you are getting marginal burn days. Like, see, I changed the temperature, I dropped the temperature, now all of a sudden, man, today's looking, other than the humidity, today's looking pretty good, right? But here's the catch, right? It's gonna say, oh, it's a green day, good to go, full send. But then you look at your RH and you're like, yeah, the RH is way too high. There's no way that's gonna work. So again, don't just base it, because there is an option I'll show you here in a minute. There is an option to email folks, email yourself and email others and say, hey, I'm going to Let's look at today for a burn day. Let's look at this upcoming day for a burn day. Okay. So how do we do that? Okay, we go up here to burn list, right? And here's my unit. It says it's active. Here's the daily day-to-day, right? And you hover over it and it'll tell you how many of the conditions are met. So you go over here, back to manage unit, and on this front page, now you can add email notifications, right? So we can, now we're going to say, here's and boom, and then save. And so now, oh, well, okay, I can't add myself, but let's say you have a couple of different people who are responsible for your, like, say you're a PBA, right? Well, you might sign up for this account under the PBA email, right? So whoever's got PBA email access can then get into here and input burns, so that spreads that workload around. But moreover, you have a few folks who are kind of in charge of just rallying the troops, right? Getting the word out there. Hey, here's a potential day. So, for example, you might, the landowner for this, whoever that may be, let's say it's Fred Bitzelfix, right? And then his email is fred@bitzelfix.com. There you go. So that way that landowner also gets that notification. Hey, we're going to save that. That landowner also gets that notification that, hey, there's an upcoming good burn day. Check the weather, make sure. So it's really just taking that aspect of things and simplifying it a little bit for people trying to coordinate multiple burns across the landscape. Great for contractors also. If you have a bunch of different burns in a bunch of different areas, go plug them in and plug in those weather details that you need, and there you go. For the user help, there is a user guide available. You just click that and it'll take you to a download link for the PDF for the user guide. And then there's also a video up on YouTube that will show you, how to do this all as well, at least draw the units. And so there you go. This is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Anything you guys want to know, questions, comments, leave them down below. Email me, mark@groundedtruths.com. And I will be happy to help you. I am not affiliated with this in any way, shape, or form. I'm just a fire management guy who's been playing with this for a week now and toying with it and seeing how it works and what it can do. The downsides to this, there's no way to upload a shapefile or a KML to put in the burn units. You have to draw them by hand. You have to input them in here. You can't just upload. The other downside is there's no way to delete a unit either. So the best you can do is just make it inactive and kind of forget about it. As far as I know, and I haven't found in the documentation, there's no limit to the number of burns you can put in here. That would be a consideration if there was a limit and we were pushing up against that. Do we want to have the ability to delete units that we're not using anymore? Would be great. So anyhow, hopefully this is helpful. Thanks so much for your time. Stay warm, stay safe, keep burning.